talk about Invincible Season 3. I thought Invincible Season 3 was a massive improvement over the second season. The second season was split in half, and I didn't care for the battle on Thraxa because they changed a few things here and there. Didn't feel as intense as it should have been, because usually Viltrumites fight with just fists. They don't use weapons or anything like that. So the third season starts with the return of an old villain, Doc Seismic. He has communicated with a bunch of creatures, from subterranean creatures that are really strong, and they've captured all the heroes. They're going to bury them under a large piece of earth. So Cecil has to use his hidden aces up his sleeve. He has Reanimen on standby to teleport in. He has actually kept D.A. Sinclair out of jail, and he's working for the GDA now, and much to Mark's chagrin. Also, Darkwing has redeemed himself. He is now working, even though he committed atrocities in his little arc. Something about like a city being plunged into a dark dimension, and he had to basically live there for a year, and there's a lot of no law, a lot of chaos, so stuff happened, and he's trying to basically do right. And the second episode, we get a little bit of backstory for Cecil, very important flashbacks about how he became the leader of the GDA and stuff like that, and why he's like the way he is. And they have the big climactic showdown with Mark as they have their big disagreement. Overall, I feel like the themes of the comic are very coming forward. Robert Kirkman made Invincible to be a superhero story, and it starts off as your usual, like, you know, superheroes fighting threats and monsters and aliens and supervillains. But it's much more than that. There's also now themes of morality, vigilantism, protecting your loved ones, masculinity, especially in the finale with Conquest. So after episode 1 and 2, we get a little slow down a little bit into some other plot lines involving Titan and Oliver basically training and stuff like that. I think they did a pretty good job with Powerplex. Powerplex is a small player in the comics. They brought him out and gave him a whole episode to do stuff. I don't know if this character will return, because they sort of did his second appearance at the end of another episode. So I do like Aaron Paul in the role. He does a pretty good job. A different kind of villain. They changed his backstory a little bit, I think. They added that he worked for the GDA or something. I'm not sure if that was in the comics or not. But they have been making small little changes here and there, and I like that. There's also the breakout in episode 4, which serves as a mini climax of sorts. I like that as well. They definitely changed that a little bit too, because I remember in the comics that was a really short sequence. They turned it into a full 20-minute action climax, so I liked how they stepped up the suspense a little bit, and they definitely gave us a little bit of Nolan, because he's kind of sidelined in this season. Overall, I think that the character arcs and the themes are really coming apparent. The biggest one being Mark doesn't kill, but by the end of the season, he realizes they live in a world without that luxury, and it's something that a lot of comic book superheroes can't do. It's something that Robert Kirkman's allowed to do because he created this world, right? If you're a comic book writer and you're a writer for hire, you can't make large sweeping changes to a mainstream superhero. You can't have Superman go evil. You can if it's like Injustice or something like separate, or like red kryptonite poisoning, but you can't have that happen. But then you have stuff like Irredeemable, where you can have that happen for the whole series. You can play around with morality and introduce new original storylines, because you created these characters. You can do whatever you want. And that's what Robert Kirkman did by introducing all these large-scale threats. It's like you can't really, keep going into a certain way where you just keep maiming your villains and then they just come back. Especially because the world building of this series is so intense, to the sense that like you could literally like get chopped apart or lose limbs, and they'll just give you a cyborg arm. They seem to have a lot of recovery tech in this series, this world, where especially Cecil, I mean, in his flashback, he had most of his skin sloughed off by a gas, and he's just fine, and he might have robot parts, but and same with Donald too, right? So I think the biggest thing, though, I didn't care for the song usages. They used a song at the end of episode 7 for Rex, and didn't quite like that. And then the weird title sequence for episode 5 for Powerplex, I thought that was kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit too much. And I think, though, the series really stuck the landing with episode 8. I'm a huge fan of comics. I've read them, so they actually did a good job. I think they had to do a good job, honestly. The battle on Thraxa was not up to snuff for me as a comic book fan, but the battle with Conquest was definitely chef's kiss. It was. It literally starts with them fighting and just smacking the crap out of each other. Every hit feels real, feels cataclysmic, and they changed a couple things here and there. Like I think when Conquest grabs Mark in the comics, they shoves him through an ocean liner or something like that instead. But in this, they changed it to another civilian kill spree with him holding him. I don't know if that was intentional, if Conquest knew that Nolan did that to Mark already. They also added a weird confession to give Conquest a little bit more humanity, which was really creepy. I like that because Robert Kirkman wrote this episode. And a little bit more for Eve to do as well. But definitely, definitely took a lot of inspiration from the comic panels themselves. I really liked it. Really did capture the intensity of that finale, especially when reading. The Invincible War was a little scattered when I read it in comic book form. It kind of does the same thing. I feel this season doesn't do a good job of introducing all these tertiary characters, though. There's like that wolf guy, there's Tech Jacket, there's all these other heroes. I know Brit, but I don't know any of these other big meaty guys. They just sort of show them fighting Invincibles and then either getting wrecked or winning, and it's kind of like a little bit, not bad, it's just like I can't feel anything for this random large green guy whose name I don't even know. Like where's the Spawn cameo? Where's the, Savage Dragon cameo? Couldn't they get some of this stuff, But I guess not. So there's a lot of like nameless superhero characters just sort of getting wrecked. And I did like the intensity of Stephen Ewan's voice acting for the other Invincibles. There's some creepy tinges and cadences that he gets to use, like a creepy high voice and a screaming voice and like angsty voice. I liked how they had different style of voices all from the same person, same designs, cool designs too. Yeah, definitely upped the stakes a lot, and overall very strong season because it manages to stick to a little bit of character development too for some of the other characters, but overall I felt the action was definitely up to snuff, especially the stuff not in the last 2 episodes. The action is actually really well like choreographed and drawn, the way like just the breakout from prison, just to some other small scuffles. Everything feels really well done. It's not just people running around flying at each other. There's actually like a choreography to it. So season 3 of Invincible is very strong and I enjoyed it a lot. Looking forward to future seasons.